Hello, guys, and welcome to Odds Serie A Matchday 13, and probably the best match in Serie A because we have Derby di Roma, we have Derby d'Italia, we have Napoli Atalanta. Gela, how are you?
I'm all right, thanks you, Edu. A lot of derbies, yes, and we go up to the end of Serie A before the break for the World Cup. We got 6 head-to-head between the top 8 teams, so it's gonna be really, really intense. It could be really important for the title race.
We have 3 match days until the World Cup, so let's analyze this one with Danny, with you guys. Remember to leave your comments, your tips, and of course, please press the like and subscribe to help us grow. And now let's go on with the show. We are gonna go in crescendo, no, Danny, as we say in Italian.
That's right.
Oh, because now we have games that are not that appealing, like the first one on Friday. Udinese, Lecce. Udinese still dropping in the table. They weren't able even to beat Cremonese in the last match day, so no victories in the last 4. For Lecce, they lost 0-1 only against Juve. Actually, they put a fight in that game. Udinese to win. Danny, we have very low odds, and I'm not sure if someone should put their money on Udinese now.
It's tough because no wins in 4, but good performances against Cremonese, good performances against Lazio away a couple of weeks ago, but only 1 goal scored in the last 3. Although they did miss clear chances at the end against Cremonese with Deulofeu to make it 1-0. This is a difficult one. Lecce unlucky against Juventus sometimes because they made it difficult for Juve. They only lost 1-0. They defended well. They didn't keep the ball too well, but in the end they hit the post with 1-0. Hadn't scored in 3 out of 6 away games. Lecce against Bologna, the last away game, was disappointing, but we know this is a team that has scored most of the times against the top teams, has never been trashed. So it is a team that has never lost heavily against the top teams despite being a newly promoted side, but they are last in Serie A for shots. So it is a very counter-attacking team, if you like, a team that likes to camp in their half. They do not produce a lot of attacking sequences. This is a tough one. I think there could be goals here. Because Udinese got a couple of absentees, I think. Lecce might feel they need to go for it a little bit more now. Over 1 goal in the first half, that pays 199.
Cautious one. So if there is 1
Yeah.
goal, you get your money back. Next one is Empoli, Sassuolo. Empoli back-to-back. They were playing against Atalanta and Juve, but only 2 victories this season against weak teams like Monza and Bologna. And this Sassuolo in the middle of the table. Game, I guess, against Napoli, but still 3 defeats in the last 4. Another one that is tough to go for any of these teams, in my opinion.
Totally. And there's going to be another cautious one for me. I'm going to go this time for an Asian handicap 0 in the second half, which pay for Empoli, which pays well. It doubles your stake. So Empoli not to lose the second half, potentially to win it for you to win your stake. Why? Because so far, Empoli, like last season, have been better away than at home. They only scored 4 goals in 6 games at the Castellani. They often find themselves chasing the game when they play at home. Maybe it's due to lack of experience. Sometimes it's due to lack of cutting edge. Up front, they do make mistakes, especially when they try to play the ball from the back. They don't score many. Empoli, they have got the 17th attack, despite I think they have strengthened the attack with the addition of Lammers and Destro. Sassuolo got trashed by Napoli. They could have scored a couple in the end. They are still a decent attack inside. They score 14, considering they've been without Berardi for a while. Also, the goal Loriente suspended. 9th for shots, Sassuolo, despite they are not too. They're not too entertaining as they used to be. 2 away clean sheets, but it's only 2 away clean sheets. But they also scored 11 goals away. So be careful with Sassuolo away. Again, I'm gonna be cautious on this one. Asian handicap 0 for Empoli in the second half too. So it means if Empoli wins the second half, you win. If they draw the second half, you get your money back.
Okay, Gary, I have no idea about these first two games.
I'm not sure
Very
if I've helped you too much, but these are tough one to predict. I mean, you can be cautious, you can try go for the draw, you can pass. I mean, there is
yeah,
absolutely no obligation to put a bet. These are just tips, suggestion, angles that you can just to help you with your research, really.
and it's a good idea actually, so you can double your money with Danny's tips in these first two games. Another one, not very exciting, I could say, Salernitana
No.
Cremonese. Cremonese bottom of the table with only 5 points. They drew the last three away, though,
Yes.
for Cremonese and Salernitana. What a season, what a 2022, I would say, for Salernitana. The last feast, the last party was in the Olympico 1-3. How the team celebrated that victory, Danny?
It was a strange one. They were outplayed in the first half. Lazio took the lead. Lazio without Immobile for that game had chances, but then in the end, Salernitana came out very strongly. Were very good on the counter attack. The goal from Candelo was one of the best goals we've seen so far in Serie A, and they were clean goal, and they had that mentality we saw since Davide Nicola took charge last year. He completely transformed it, I think, this season with the addition of Candreva, Maggiore, Dia. They have obviously strengthened the team. They got much more quality. At home, Salernitana very good, 8th in the home table, scoring 5 out of the 6 home games, apart when they lost 1-0 against Roma. And at home so far, Salernitana have always played lower table opposition. 4 games have finished over, only 1 under. They win 1-0 against Verona, but in between there were also the 4-0 win against Sampdoria. And now they play Cremonese, who's the second worst defense in Serie A. And in the 5 European Major League, there are only 2 teams with no wins. One is Cremonese. You know which one is the other one, Edu?
No idea, to be honest.
Well, you should know. I mean, it's in home country. Anyway. We'll
What is the
reveal it.
question again, Danny? What is the question
There are
again?
only in the 5 European leagues, only 2 teams are without wins. One, of course, is Cremonese. Which one is the other one?
The other one is Elche. Yeah, of course.
Of course, the other one is Elche. So yes.
Yeah.
So
But
I haven't followed I haven't followed Elche a lot, but for sure I know the Cremonese. They also been a little bit unlucky so far this season. Surely you can tell a lot of things about Cremonese, but not that they're not trying. They are 6th for shot in Serie A, more than Salernitana, as well as Juventus. 4th for corners taken. They got a very distinctive way of play, building from the back, trying to keep possession, but sometimes the quality let them down in the final pass or in the decisions. That's why Cremonese goalkeeper so far has been the best, or the busiest, if you like, 56 saves between Radu and Carnesecchi. The last 3 away games, you pointed out correctly, there have been 3 draws for Cremonese, both to score as well. And the good omen for Cremonese is that this season away, they never been trashed. They lost 3-2 to Fiorentina, lost 3-1 to Inter, as I said, the draws as well. So they are competing away, really, even when they play against the top teams. For this reason, I think they could score. It could be a high-scoring game. I'm going to go for an over 2.5 goals, which pays 197.
Cremonese, for instance, they drew in Bergamo.
Yes.
So let's go there. Atalanta, Napoli. This is first against the second. Atalanta better away this season. Again, the same happened in the previous one. Only one defeat was against at home, and they are playing Napoli. The first defeat of the season came against Liverpool, but Danny, if you have to lose one game, lose in Anfield, they got the first spot, and they are still flying. I think they had chances in Anfield, so Napoli arrived here with a lot of good mentality, in my opinion, and strength to get a good result.
And on the back of 8 consecutive Serie A wins, it was 13 in total. Then, of course, they lost at Anfield. If it was a real game, and by real game, I mean if qualification was on the line, I think it would have seen perhaps a different result. In the end, Napoli had chances. A great save from Alisson to deny Kvaratskhelia. The goal that was disallowed to Ostigard was a very marginal offside. In the end, the physicality of Liverpool in the box with Van Dijk, with Nunez, had the better of Napoli, but Napoli is the team of the moment, the team of Italy, probably the team of Europe. 50 goals scored for Napoli in 17 games so far, have scored 4 or more goals for the 7th time this season against Sassuolo. And, you know, also when they play away, they've been really entertaining. 4 out of 6 away games have been over 2.5 goals with both to score, but they also showed that they can win ugly. 1-0 at the Olimpico at Roma, although they deserved it. 2-1 against Milan and Milano. Maybe they didn't deserve that one. So they can bring out results very well. Spalletti is doing a great job. The rotations are working very well. Zambo Anguissa is back from injury, so they go obviously with the best possible 11. We talked about Lobotka a lot. He's one of the best midfielder in Italy. I think Osimhen is going to start, but there are options from the bench. You saw it from Sassuolo, Simeone scoring as well, and I mean he did as well as against Rangers. So I mean we probably have exhausted the adjectives. We ran out of adjectives for Napoli. It's been so good. And Atalanta on the other side, the best start for Atalanta in the Gasperini era. 8 wins out of 12, although you mentioned correctly their home form is not being great, only 8 goals scored at home, so maybe because they are more cautious, it's more of a counter-attacking team. I think Gasperini at the moment is still finding the right balance, but it looks like he's getting the best out of the majority of his players. Look at Lookman, for example, a player that seemed lost in the different links he played. Now already 5 goals. Same with for Cup Miners, Hatebeur coming back, Demiral having a very good season. Defensively, this Atalanta, it's sound. They are cautious though. It is Atalanta that doesn't push forward or doesn't counter press so ferociously as they used to do. And there is a stat that shows it. They are second from bottom for corners taken, Atalanta, 46. This is the second team in the league. And Napoli, they are second overall for corners, 77. So you can tell who's attacking more of these two teams. You have to go for goals here. I think it's very difficult to predict. It could be, I mean, I'm sure the double chance for Atalanta is nice. But you have to go for goals. You have to go for over 2.75 goals, which pays really well. Last time I checked, on Oddspedia was 193, which means if there are 3 goals, you win half your stake. More than 3 goals, you win the entire stake, which is 193.
Interesting, Danny, that you go for an over. Garrick was asking you if in these big games we should go for an under as we saw in the Atalanta Lazio or in the Roma Napoli.
It is tough, Garrick. I think you are absolutely right, because we are looking also at 2 very organized and compact team with very good defenders. But you have to think about Napoli's strength at the moment is going forward. I think they're going to go there, try to dominate the possession so they can score a couple. I mean, Atalanta's defense is good, but they're not renowned for being one of the best defenses in Italy in the last few years. So I don't think this is going to change straight away. They're playing with the same defenders. Actually, they got a few injuries there as well. I like the fact that they go all the teams have got great goal scorers that are in form at the moment.
30 goals scored by Napoli. You mentioned before Victor Osimhen. Now the joint top scorer of this Serie A together with Marco Arnautovic, and he's really in form. We have Uros and Ankur staying away from the big games.
Okay. Well, I hope you'll watch it though.
Exactly, we have 3 big games in this
That's where the
Serie
fun
A.
is. Watch it.
And we have very, very good games, especially this season. That, to be honest, I don't know who is going to win this Serie A, because it's very balanced. We will need to wait until the month of February or March to know better. Well, for sure, a candidate is Milan, and we have Milan Spezia. Milan, they are, by the way, still the favorites to win the Serie A with outright market with odds at 5. But now they are third, and they saved a match ball in the Champions League, and they did it really well against Salzburg. Finally, they are going to be in the knockout stages. I think as a football fan myself, I love to see Milan again among the best clubs in Europe. And Danny, as you mentioned the previous week, it was a tricky game, the one in Torino, and they lost it. Here, Spezia, they are awful when they are playing away, 0 points.
Absolutely.
So Milan to win, perhaps to win 2-0 could be an option here to raise the odds.
You've read my mind. Milan to win 2-0. And last time I checked on Oddspedia, the odds were fantastic. 195. Maybe because the bookies might think Milan could be fatigued after the Champions League. But look at the way they dispatch Salzburg. Such a professional performance, so assured. They know about their strength. This is a team that has grown a lot in confidence in the last year and a half, thanks to Pioli. Pioli, who's been already, whose contract has been renewed in 2025. So there is a lot of confidence there, and the last two Champions League performances really put Milan where it belongs for the type of players, for the way they played. Okay, the last Serie A performances have been disappointing. They lost against Torino. Torino had a better rhythm than them. Monza in the second half against Milan had more chances. Maybe they lack a little bit of intensity, a little bit of creativity, but when it matters, Milan delivers, and they've done it for the last year and a half. The concern for Milan at home domestically is that already they conceded 13 goals, only 3 clean sheets. They do have few absentees in defense, basically the entire right-hand side, Calabria, Florenzi, then Salemaker up front. Of course, they are still without Magnan. So I think these things in the long run, in the league, they do count. In the single game, when it's in and out and knockout, not as much, I think. That's why Milan has been so good against Dinamo Zagreb and Salzburg. But they are very reliable at home against small teams, especially. Spezia against Fiorentina, very good fighting spirits. They were down with 10 men. They lost in the end. I still believe this year Spezia is going to try to win just the home games, winning the winnables. We see them completely different at home and away. 0 points away, 13 goals conceded, 0
Zero
goals
goals scored.
scored. It's amazing, And but incredibly, last year Spezia away were much better. Do you remember they won in Milan 2-1? They won in Napoli 1-0. They didn't deserve to win any of those games. But last year Spezia won 5 away games and drew 3, so that's already 18 points. If they don't start collecting away points, they're gonna go down for sure, because they cannot get to 38 points only on home form. They are also numerically short for this one. They are without Nicolau, without Simone Bastoni, still injured. So I think it's a team that it's not been strengthened in the summer enough. And Gotti is trying to do what he can to try to make them hard to beat, at least at home. Milan to win, sure. Milan to win 2-0. 195. I mean, the odds, they might have gone down after Milan thrashing Salzburg, but a 195, I think is almost a safe bet.
Exactly. Remember what Danny said, Spezia, no goals scored when they are playing away. And the good news for Milan, as Ankur is reminding us, is that they won't play against PSG, because Milan, they are second of the group. So as PSG, so we won't see PSG Milan in the last 16 round in the Champions League. On Sunday, we have 5 games. Let's start with Bologna, Torino, two teams that are picking up the pace and getting good results. Bologna changed the manager and 3 consecutive victories, 2 in Serie A, the last one against Monza at home in the Dallara, only 1 defeat this season. And also Torino, Danny, they started very well the season, then it went down, and now 2 consecutive victories against good teams like Milan and Udinese. Tough one, this one again.
Tough one to bet, but these are 2 teams in very good spirit. I think Bologna, because they won from behind against Monza, it was difficult. Also because they played without Arnautovic, already scored 7 out of their 14 goals. So he had a stomach problem, and they were without him. But despite conceding the first goal, then they create the best chances. And I think already in the last 3 games, we are starting to see the blueprint of Thiago Motta. They changed, they keep the ball better. It's more of an attacking threat. Zirkzee, Dutch guy, Dutch player, 21 years old, former Bayern Munich, really doing well. 1 goal and 2 assists in the last 3 games. 7 goals so far for Bologna in the last 4 games. They also scored 2 at the Maradona against Napoli. So I think they have turned the corner finally. Torino win against Milan, as we predicted. Best performance of the year for Torino. Finally, they capitalize on the amount of chances they created. I remember there were a few games before where they had a lot of the ball, a lot of chances, and they didn't manage to score. This time they did, and they imposed their rhythm really well. They were really aggressive against Milan. They are fifth for possession, by the way, Torino. It is a team that press high. Once they recover the ball in the opposition half, they keep it well. These are two team that in recent weeks, I think they've done much better. Torino also won away at Udinese. Over 2.25 goals. Again, great odds, I think, here. 199. That means if there are only 2 goals, you lose half your stake because it's an Asian line. But if there are more than 2 goals or 3 goals or more, you win 199. Basically, you double your stake.
We have Garrick and Wanchuk also going for both teams to score in this game. And it's interesting what Garrick is telling us, how the players will approach this final week before the World Cup, because they have 2-3 games in the case of the Serie A. And perhaps the players that can go to the World Cup, they don't want to risk an injury, Danny.
Well, we saw a lot of injuries recently. Even yesterday in the Champions League, Timo Werner got subbed off in the first half because of an ankle problem. Ben Chilwell from Chelsea in England got an injury at the end of the game. So the risk is always there. But these are competitive games, Garrick. I mean, how can they rest themselves? Maybe they can ask the manager to take them out at the 70th minute or stuff like that. But if your team is losing, really, you cannot just pull out of a tackle. So they'll have to go for it, fingers crossed, and nothing will happen.
We have the case of Karim Benzema, for instance, that he's not playing for Real Madrid. I think he's resting for the World Cup, to be honest, and then he will go back in form, or he says that, for the final and decisive part of the season. Next game, 2 classics of Italian football. Sampdoria, Fiorentina, not the best year for neither of them. Sampdoria back to the relegation spots. Worst team at home in Serie A with only 2 points. And Fiore, Danny, at least finally, you mentioned before the victory in Spezia, lucky one, but finally a positive result for the Viola.
Maybe they turned the corner as well, Fiorentina, as much as Bologna did, because, it's 2 wins on the bounce after they beat Başakşehir at home. Now they score 6 in the last 3 league games against Spezia, win of the willpower. They were playing against the 10 man. In the end, they managed to break Spezia down, and it's a great result because previously they were without a win in 8 away games. Now they got another away game. Let's see if they can capitalize. Of course, tonight they played in the Conference League as well, so that's 3 away consecutive games. I think with Fiorentina, we always said that they were lacking the cutting edge, they were lacking the final pass, they were lacking the precisions. They are second for shots in Serie A alongside Milan and behind Napoli, first for corner taken, second for possession. They need to make sure that they stick the ball in the back of the net, because the play and everything that goes before the goal, it's almost perfect. Sometimes they're very naive at the back, like against Inter. They do push the line a bit too much and they expose themselves. It is a team that is I think is a bit in transition. They had good signing in the summer, but maybe they didn't replace one of the key players, which is Torreira. They didn't replace appropriately, and that's why they're suffering, where they are out of possession. Sampdoria, well beaten by Inter. They got the worst attack of Serie A, only 6 goals scored, only 2 clean sheets so far. Stankovic says they lost because episode. Well, it's not true. They lost because the Inter were much better than them. They're still a long way off. Okay, the change of manager has produced something. They are a bit more aggressive, but they're still a long way off from where they should be. They lack creativity in midfield as well. I'm not sure Gabbiadini playing wide on the right is the right choice. Maybe should play a little bit closer to Caputo. But again, this is a team that has not been strengthened a lot in the summer. No wins at home, by the way. Only 2 goals scored. Sampdoria best performance so far, that 0-0 against Juventus back in August. But for this one, again, I think they're gonna be goals. So I'm gonna go again for an over 2.25 goals, 181. I trust Fiorentina to score. I think Sampdoria will score. The both to score option, it doesn't pay very well, but you can always go for it if you want to be safer. Over 2.25 goals, 181.
I like the excuses of some managers. No, when you are losing clearly, and they say that they were unlucky or they were only episodes when you've been thrashed.
It's always an episode.
We have a piece of a story in Spain recently. Sporting lost 5-0 in Granada in the second division, and the manager was complaining, Abelardo, no, because Granada only had. Okay, guy, you lose a game 5-0, go home. And don't say anything. Same for Stankovic. Now try to beat Fiorentina. Well, Danny, next game, scary one, Monza Verona. Yes. After the amazing run for Monza, remember 3 consecutive victories. Now 3 consecutive defeats. This is a direct a 6-pointer for the relegation. And Verona, they look awful. They look really bad. 7 consecutive defeats. They took the lead against Roma, but was quite lucky actually. The goal.
I think Roma were lucky in the end against Verona. I disagree with you. I think Verona were with 10 men for over an hour. They took the lead. They defended fairly well. Roma could only break them down in the end and create chances in the second half from set pieces. I think Verona, with a new manager, with Bocchetti, they are more aggressive. You can tell they are trying. But there is obviously a clear lack of quality there, especially in midfield. They were without Ilic for that game. Ilic probably is the best midfielder. And up front, without the front three of their last year, Simeone, Barak, and Caprari, they really find it so hard to create chances and to score. They don't keep the ball out at all well. Their midfield are all about energy, pressing, but when it comes to actually managing the game, the likes of Tamez, for example, they're not great in that respect. So they are second from bottom for possession, Verona. They do concede a lot of shots. They are the worst defense in Serie A. And actually the goalkeeper is second for saves made. So if it wasn't for Montipo, they would have conceded already 40 goals possibly. But it's also a team that lacks, as I said, quality, precision. Is the team that gets caught offside the most. So that means they mistime the passes, they mistime the run, they don't have a clear plan. So I mean, for a team that spends so much time defending, then to get caught offside so much, it tells something. Whereas it comes for Monza, fair defeat in a row. I think against Bologna, they were naive. They should have managed the game better because they took the lead and then they got caught on the break twice by Bologna. So they were trying to score the second. Maybe they should have managed the defense a little bit more. It was, I think it was a mistake of experience there. But they do play well. Monza, they keep the ball well. They got a very good midfield, much better than the Verona midfield. If you look at the likes Pessina, Rovella, Sensi, also Carlos Augusto, they are way, way above the current Verona midfield. They are third for possession. Monza in Serie A. It is a newly promoted team. All the 3 wins for Monza have been clean sheet. I think that's where the strength of the team goes as well. I mean, they found a very good balance with Palladino, which in the last few weeks they've lost. Verona, 7 consecutive defeats. That's equal the worst long streak in 1979-2018. So they've already changed the manager. They better start winning because otherwise they haven't got any other option. They're gonna be with 3 players suspended for this one. Verona, Hein, Ceccherini, Davidovic, who got sent off against Roma, maybe also without Ilic. If that's the case, I think Monza are gonna win this one. So I like Monza to win is nice, but if you want to be cautious, Asian handicap minus 0.25 for Monza, which pays 193, which means if they draw, you only lose half your stake.
I like this one. Davidovic tackle against Zaniolo was terrible. Awful. Well, Zaniolo actually, after he left the pitch injured. So let's talk about the Derby di Roma. Roma Derby. Derby della Capitale, as they call it in Italy, Roma, Lazio. I was surprised, and I am still surprised to see these odds, to see Roma, this favorite, because I think these 2 teams are really balanced. The numbers tell us this, Danny, and to see why Roma is so favorite, I was checking the head-to-head between these 2 teams, and Derby won by the home team, and the last away victory in a derby was in 2017, and this is even strange because they play, remember, in the same stadium, of course.
And since you mentioned the number, let's start to break them down and to say that this game is unpredictable. In the last 6 derbies, 3 have been over 2.5 goals, 3 have been under 2.5 goals, 3 both to score, and 3 both to score no. 2 draws and 2 wins apiece. So it's completely unpredictable, completely balanced, and one back 3 years. It is a shame that this derby is going to be played probably without the 4 best players in both teams, because Roma are going to be without Wijnaldum, which we never saw in Serie A, without Dybala. Lazio going to be without Milinkovic-Savic suspended, possibly without Immobile, although he's trying to make it. We don't know whether Zaniolo is playing. So out of a sudden, you've stripped out the best of the teams of the best player, the best quality. It could be maybe a low-scoring game. And also, both teams have got midweek games at the moment of recording. We don't know whether Roma and Lazio qualify for the Europa League, but these are games that obviously they must win in the case of Roma and must avoid defeat for Lazio. Let's start talking about Roma. I think Mourinho has given them something which is enthusiasm and character, but the way they play since the last 12 months hasn't really improved. It is due to the injuries, of course. Since they lost Dybala, they lost all the creativity and all the spark. They really struggled to produce attacks. Also against Verona, yes, they scored 3, but 2 were late. So you would expect a little bit more, but with the midfield of Matic and Cristante, it's really difficult to sometimes to impose your style and your possession. That's why Mourinho tries to change things and launches young players like Camara, like Volpato, who gave assist and a goal to Verona. Last year he did the same with Zalewski and Bove. So credit to him for instilling the belief, instilling the mentality into the team, and trying out of necessity to play with the young players. But he's a team that, as I said, doesn't create much. Abraham is in a bad form, only 3 goals this season. Is not only a confidence issue, he hit the post more than he scored. This season is also an issue of how he shoots, how he times his run, the last decision. So it is a player that last season scored 17 in Serie A. It's way below his form, and obviously, he's probably gonna go to the World Cup, but it's nowhere near the starting 11 of England so far. And Zaniolo scored his first goal at Verona since the final in Tirana when they won the Conference League. So that tells you how poor his season has been. He had a couple of injuries. You can tell that since the 2 bad injuries, Zaniolo has lost something in physicality, in the way he reads the games, in timings of the passes. He spends a lot of time on the floor complaining to the referee. He's not quite there for Zaniolo. And the stat that is worrying for Roma is that after Dybala in Serie A, who scored 5, their top scorer is Smalling, with 3 goals, with 3 headers. So they're very good from set pieces, but they cannot just win by scoring set pieces. And now with Lazio, a strange defeat against Salernitana because they took the lead and they seemed in control. Then they missed a few chances, and then they got found out at the back. Strange because it was a team that only conceded 5 goals so far. Now they conceded. The decision to leave out Milinkovic-Savic for the first half because he was a risk suspension backfired, because then he got booked. He was not a booking, so now he's going to miss the derby, and he's been by far the best player for them in Italy. I mentioned before, I think this season he's been at the level of De Bruyne in Italy in terms of giving assist. Yeah, it's been amazing. Assist, goals, contribution, box to box. Really, if you look at best midfielders in Europe at the moment, De Bruyne, Milinkovic-Savic, of course, the Belgian is ahead of him, but Milinkovic-Savic is been amazing. So without Milinkovic-Savic, probably the good news for Lazio is that the front three seem to work anyway. Zaccagni, for example, has scored 4 goals, 2 assists since the beginning of October. Pedro and Andon, they are Sarri's players. They are people who can interchange position very well, quick feet, good technique, etc. So is that enough to trouble Roma, who's also can defend? We'll see. Roma is only the 8th attack of Serie A, although they did the post and the bar 9 times, more than anybody. Lazio, the second best Serie A defense beside Juventus. As I said, this is unpredictable because of the numbers I explained before. If you want to find an angle for your betting, you should go for an under 1.5 goals in half. So quite tight game, 183. The bookies may expect a lot of goals the recent results, but I'm going to go 180 under 1.5 goals in the second half. So if there's only one goal in the second half, you win. More goal in the second half, you lose your stake.
And Garrick is telling us why not. So over 5.5 cards, odds are 171. We also have this market in Oddspedia. So if you go to the Roma Lazio page, you will find this special market. So tell me your prediction for Roma Lazio, and of course tell me in prediction for Juve Inter. We have Juve out of the Champions League, luckily still in Europe because Maccabi lost against Benfica. Juve, well, at least they put a fight against PSG. The last 3 games in Serie A were victory. Let's see the positive side of Juve's bad season. Whereas for Inter, they are also getting very good results lately. We don't have to count the game against Bayern Munich. 4 consecutive victories in Serie A. It's funny, Danny, because I would say always that Inter season is being way better than Juventus season. Is because of the Champions League. They are in the last 16 round, but in the Serie each other.
Yeah, I mean, they're close to each other in Serie A, though I think Inter comes in a better form overall. But, Juventus, the last 3 games, there were 3 wins to nil. None of them extremely convincing. Of course, Inter are still in Europe in the Champions League. Juventus are out in the Europa League, so their campaign has been a disaster. But if you look at the season so far, no team, neither Juventus or Inter, have actually won a big match apart from the 1-0 win of Inter against Barcelona. But in Italy, they've not been good against top teams. Inter are on the back of 4 wins in a row, so they got the confidence and morale high, but they also had 3 away defeats, and they lost to Lazio, they lost to Milan, they lost to Roma, they lost to Udinese when Udinese were flying. Juventus, I knew they were going to lose against PSG. I think the golfing glass is too big at the moment. They put up a good fight in the first half, but then, it's down to the players, and, Juventus also got a lot of absentees. They were without Bremer, without Paredes, without Di Maria. Chiesa came on the second half. Vlahovic still got rested. So again, numerically, is a Juventus that can put a lot of midfielders there, but in terms of quality, they do struggle. Recently, Kostic is playing a little bit better. It's a Juventus that, yes, he can work hard, he can try to make life harder for the oppositions, but how many goals can they score? So again, good opposition that normally hurt you. It's still difficult. Juventus still without a lack of identity, without a precise strategy, but they got the best defense in Serie A so far. Only 7 goals conceded. I mentioned already the absentees. I think we're going to see Chiesa a bit more on this game. Look, I think Juventus' best game so far this season remained the first half against Roma, where they were 1-0, but they could have scored 2 or 3. So clearly they got it in them. They got the quality there, but they've been very, very patchy, often found out against good team. This is a game where, unfortunately, like the Roma derby, both best players or the most important players are going to be missing. No Lukaku, no Pogba, no World Cup for Pogba. Lukaku is still a doubt, and this is a shame because these were the 2 biggest signings in summer for Italy. They're not going to be there. For Pogba, of course, a bad strategy. He should have got a surgery earlier. For Lukaku, bad luck. But let's look at the good things for Inter. Is the fact that they found a good defensive solidity with Çalhanoğlu in front of the defense. He's working well. It's been a good intuition from Inzaghi since Brozovic has been missing already because he's been injured, so he's also missing for this game. And now the midfield trio of Inter, Barella, Brozovic, and Mkhitaryan, they're helping each other. They're running more. They're doing more of the defensive work. The entire body language of Inter in the last month has changed since the defeat against Roma. They only had good results and a draw at Barcelona as well. So only wins and that draw. So obviously they done the job really, really well. A convincing win against Vittoria Pelzenia, against Sampdoria as well with 2 clean sheet. Barella already involved in 9 goals this season, 5 goals. Only De Bruyne and Milankovic have done better than him. again, let's try to break down the number and try to find an angle there. Impossible to predict. These two teams, they meet each other 10 times in the last 3 seasons, also because they played 3 times in the Coppa Italia final last season, the Super Cup final last season. So in 10 games, 4 wins for Juve, 4 wins for Inter, 2 draws. 5 games have been over 2.5, 5 games have been under 2.5, 5 games both to score yes, 5 games both to score no. So there is absolutely no way by the numbers you can judge it. Normally these games are a tense affair. Sometimes they're cagey, sometimes there are a lot of cards, sometimes there are not many. Is the Derby d'Italia is the most important game in Italy by any stretch of imagination, despite people say it's Milan Juventus. No, this is the real rivalry in Italy. Impossible really to pick out a winner or an outright market odds here. The double chance and both to score is appealing, but you could go each way. Chance, Inter double chance, both to score. I'm going to go for both to score here. 185. Inter have conceded 14 goals away so far this season. I think they still are not perfect at the back. They're going to have more of the ball. They're going to create more chances. I think they're going to score against Juventus, who again also got their own absentees there. So 185, both to score, I think is good enough for this one.
What a Sunday we have in Italy to be on the sofa and just watch TV and place some bets. Of course, if you follow Danny's picks, good enough, but at least you have more information. He displayed the numbers and it's up to you, of course, to follow them or not. Garrick is back in Inter here. For instance, Inter is the favorite, Juve the underdog, despite playing in home soil. Well, Danny, let's listen to your safe bet. I guess it's not going to be in the Roma derby or in the Derby d'Italia.
No, because these are difficult to predict. So let's go for halftime, full time, Milan to win against Spezia home. That pays really well, 180 at the moment.
Let's trust here. Pioli's on fire, remember? And Danny, your ACCA. Danny's also on fire. He nailed another ACCA in the Champions League.
And so did Alvaro. So did Alvaro. So both went through in the Champions League. So Empoli Sassuolo, 1x. Atalanta Napoli over 2.5 goals. Sampdoria Fiorentina, 1x. Total odds, 5.55. Say it again. Total odds, 5.55.
A treble here, backing the underdogs in the Empoli and in the Sampdoria game. Well, thanks, Danny. Thanks, everyone watching, as always. And don't forget to like us and subscribe. Next week, we have 2 more Serie A videos, and then we go directly to Qatar. Thanks, Danny. Bye-bye.
Ciao, Edu.